In January 2026, we got a glimpse announcement that one or more sets from the XY and Black and White era could be introduced to TCG Live by the end of 2026, 8 months later, and there has been no further clarification or update on this announcement, so I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what happens, and I imagine we'll get an update on it by the 31st of December 2026 at 11:59 PM. But regardless, with the prospect of full expanded coming to TCG Live after the best part of 4 years of waiting and putting up with the nerfed Sun and Moon Forward expanded format, here are in my opinion the top 10 decks to play in the full expanded format, so you can get ready and prepare for when the format makes its return. For any players who play the standard format at the time of recording, you're probably familiar with what Slowking does with its Seek Inspiration attack to copy insane attacks like Trifrost Kyurem and Chaos Rising Metagross, but this deck has the ability to be played in expanded thanks to a number of cards from the expanded card pool that can make it easier for Slowking to attack and use more powerful attacks, which is why I think this is a great starter deck for standard format players wanting to get into expanded, because you'll already be familiar with how the deck works. You can get Pokemon you need onto the top of your deck with cards like Oranguru with the Primate Wisdom ability, which switches the top card of your deck with one in your hand, as well as Max Revive, which puts a Pokemon from your discard pile directly on top of your deck. The Dimension Valley Stadium also allows Slowking to attack for a single energy, as it reduces the cost of Seek Inspiration by 1 colorless energy. So we play Telepathic Energy to fulfill the cost, and then we can also use Telepathic Energy to set up our board in the early game. Blowaway Bomb, Coughing and Roxy is a massive draw engine in this deck, being able to draw up to 6 cards during our turn, and if we discard Coughing with Roxy, we can put a damage counter on all of our opponent's Pokemon. Unknown as well also allows us to draw cards with its Farewell ability, which discards itself from the bench to do so, and then it can also be retrieved with cards like Rescue Carrier in the deck, which is absolutely broken. And the reason why we are playing this draw engine over any other typical draw engine in Expanded is because these cards' abilities don't get turned off by Wobbuffet with the Barricade ability, which turns off all psychic Pokemon abilities, so we can still draw cards throughout the game, and it doesn't turn off other support Pokemon like Latias EX, which gives us free retreat on all of our basic Pokemon, and Lily's Clefairy, which can make Regidrago VSTAR have 2 times weakness to psychic Pokemon. The only ability in the deck that would be turned off by Wobbuffet is Oranguru, which is completely fine, as we can just attach a Stealthy Hood to it, which prevents all effects of abilities done to this Pokemon this card is attached to. Radiant Alakazam as well is another support Pokemon that helps us move damage counters on our opponent's side of the board to take easier knockouts with Trifrost and Metagross. But Yveltal is another insane attacker with the amazing Destruction attack, which just outright KOs your opponent's Pokemon for free, which is honestly insane. And Wide Lens allows us to do weakness damage to their bench, as well as removing resistance on them as well, which is a nice tech to the deck, to be honest. But if you want to get into Expanded as a current standard format player, I would definitely try this deck before any other, as will be like you're used to playing this deck in the standard format. But one thing I will say is that this deck struggles with the stadium game, as if your opponent plays something like Field Blower, Lost Vacuum, or indeed Chaotic Swell, being able to attack with Slowking can just be made that little bit harder if they do that. So taking in a Field Blower of your own could be a good way to move forward with this deck. But let me know your thoughts on this deck in the comments below. Tsareena V is a classic aggro style hard-hitting deck that can give better meta decks a run for their money. Tsareena V has the attack Queen's Orders, where for 2 energy we get to do 20 damage, and for each bench Pokemon we discard we get to do 40 more damage. Whilst we can only have up to 5 bench Pokemon normally, stadiums like Skyfield allow us to have up to 8 bench Pokemon at a time, so now the max damage this attack can do is 340. But what Pokemon are we playing, I hear you ask? Well, our main port of call is Giratina with the Distortion Door ability, which allows us to put it on our bench from our discard pile and put 1 damage counter on 2 of our opponent's bench Pokemon. So of course, we can loop this turn after turn with the Queen's Orders attack and soften up our opponent's bench Pokemon to take easy KOs later in the game or even multi-prize turns. Other than that, we do play a bunch of support Pokemon in this deck that mainly draw us cards like the Dene GX, Crobat V and Squawkabilly EX, which are all staple draw cards for this format and this kind of deck, and Tapu Lele GX and Eldegoss V allow us to grab a supporter card from our deck or our discard pile respectively with their abilities. And as these are considered liability Pokemon, we can discard them with Queen's Orders to do more damage and remove them from our board state. But don't worry, we can get these Pokemon back if we need to throughout the game with cards like Dragonite EX with the pull up ability, which grabs us 2 basic Pokemon from our discard pile into our hand, and Night Stretcher and Rescue Stretcher. We can also power up the Queen's Orders attack on turn 1 thanks to Tapu Koko Prism Star, which puts 2 lightning energy from your discard pile on 2 different bench Pokemon. And we can also attach grass energy from hand, and then boom, you're ready to go. But there is an element of this deck that makes it awesome against the meta. You see, Sky Seal Stone allows us to take an extra prize card if you KO'd a V-Star or VMAX Pokemon during your turn, and 2 of the best V-Star and VMAX Pokemon in this format are Regidrago VSTAR and Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX, so you can take 3 or 4 prize cards on these Pokemon respectively. But thanks to Jirachi Prism Star, which has the ability Wish Upon a Star, you can take an extra prize card if you unprize it and put it onto your bench. And whilst you may think this is difficult to pull off, cards like Peonia, Oranguru and Mr. Mime make it a lot easier than you think to get Jirachi into your prize cards. However, this deck is very susceptible to item lock as we play 4 Quick Ball and Ultra Ball for Pokemon Search, 3 Trainer's Mail to find trainer cards, 3 Battle Compressor, which is synergetic with Tapu Koko Prism Star, Giratina and Execute, which we also play in the deck, Prime Catcher for extra gusting as well, and 2 VS Seeker, which can grab one of supporters back from the discard pile, and our Pokemon recovery in the form of Night Stretcher and Rescue Stretcher. But Tsareena V is a great deck to start playing in the expanded format as it uncovers the full aggro, draw and hard hitting capabilities the expanded format has to offer. Electro Rain Raichu is one of my favourite decks to play in the Sun and Moon version of Expanded on TCG Live, simply because you can easily board wipe your opponent to win the game, and I'm glad it sees coverage in the full expanded format as well. Alolan Raichu has the attack Electro Rain, which allows you to discard as many lightning energy as you like from this Pokemon and do 30 damage to your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like for each one you discard. The main way to get energy onto Alolan Raichu is to use Electro GX's Extra Energy Bomb ability, which allows you to KO it itself and put 5 energy cards from your discard pile onto your non-Pokemon GX and capital EX Pokemon in any way you like. Notice how it says energy cards and it doesn't specify whether you should play basic or use basic energy. So we play reversal energy and counter energy, which provides 3 or 2 of any energy at one time when attached to a non-rule box Pokemon or Pokemon GX or capital EX respectively when we are behind on prize cards, which is likely as we would have KO'd 1 or 2 Electro GX at this point. But now we have all of the energy we need onto our Alolan Raichu to board wipe them. We can make sure our opponent doesn't bench many Pokemon, so we can win the game by playing Gengar and Mimikyu, which has the Horror House GX attack, which prevents your opponent from playing any cards from their hand during their next turn. This can be fulfilled by 1 attachment of unit energy, which provides 1 lightning, metal or psychic energy at any given time. The other big issue with this deck is what if our opponent plays a bench protection Pokemon like Manaphy, Mew or Mr. Mime, or in fact abilities that turn off our own abilities like Iron Thorns? Well, we have a couple of answers in the form of Klefki, which turns off all basic Pokemon abilities in play when in the active spot, Empoleon V, which turns off all of your opponent's basic Pokemon abilities except with Pokemon that have a rule box when sat in the active spot, and Alolan Muck, which can be evolved into via the Almighty Evolution ability Ditto Prism Star, which turns off all basic Pokemon abilities in play. It's also much easier to get energy into the discard pile with Battle Compressor 2, and if you're worried about bench space, we also play Skyfield, which allows us to have up to 8 bench Pokemon at any given time, as we do play a Super Turbo Draw engine with cards like Dedenne GX, Crobat V, Tapu Lele GX, and Scorpioly EX. It's always satisfying to board wipe your opponent and take multiple prize cards, and this deck can do just that for you. Lugia VSTAR has forever been an iconic deck since its release in Sword and Shield Silver Tempest, and for a while had been considered one of the best decks in the expanded format up until recently. Lugia VSTAR has the VSTAR Power Summoning Star, which puts 2 colourless Pokemon from your discard pile onto your bench. This goes well with Archeops from Silver Tempest also, which has the ability Primal Turbo, which searches your deck for 2 special energy cards and attaches them to one of your Pokemon. There are a couple of variants of Lugia VSTAR in expanded, Rainbow Lugia, which takes advantage of special energy cards that can provide any energy at a given time and can fulfill high complex and energy specific attack costs like Aurora Energy, Rainbow Energy, and Prism Energy. But the other variant, which is arguably better in my opinion, is Dragon Lugia. This variant takes advantage of double Dragon Energy to use its insane Dragon Pokemon attacks more easily, like Garchomp and Giratina GX's GG End attack, which can discard 2 of your opponent's Pokemon from their board state, Naganadel and Guzzlord GX to use its Chaotic Order GX attack, which allows you to basically turn your prize cards face up, and if you have an extra Psychic and Dark Energy attached to it, you get to take 2 of those prize cards, which is really good for ending the game if you can't deal damage to win. And also Triforce Kyurem and Garchomp V's Sonic Strike attack to snipe the bench as well. This deck also runs double Colourless Energy to take advantage of Lugia VSTAR's Tempest Dive attack, which does 220 damage and removes a stadium in play. You could also boost the damage this attack does with up to like 300 damage with 4 powerful colourless energy we play in the deck as well, which is really cool because powerful colourless energy allows you to do 20 more damage when attached to a colourless Pokemon, and it is likely you'll be discarding these energy with the attacks, so you will be using a special charge which allows you to basically reshuffle 2 special energy cards from your discard pile back into your deck, and then you can just like re-accelerate them back into play with Archeops as you would. And Silent Lab allows you to like shut down your opponent's basic Pokemon abilities in the early game as well, which is a really nice control aspect of it. But the crazy thing about this deck is you could do this attack or any attack that you choose on the first turn pretty much, as we have access to Wally, which allows you to evolve into Lugia VSTAR on the first turn if you go second, and of course we play Battle Compressor to get the 2 Archeops into the discard pile easily, along with Wally itself, so we can use VS Seeker to easily grab it back if we need to, and yeah, we can basically use VS Seeker for any of the one-off supporters we play in the deck as well. But the main weakness with this deck is Special Energy Lock and outright Special Energy Refusal, because Lugia VSTAR has been and is still quite a popular deck, and most of the top decks in the expanded format have teched in cards like Megaton Blower A-Spec and Temple of Sinnoh to remove special energies from play or remove the effect they have whilst they are in play respectively, which is basically like completely removing Lugia VSTAR's win conditions in all fairness. But let me know your thoughts on this deck in the comments below. Ceruledge EX is an absolute aggressive powerhouse in Expanded, and it's a deck that is not only considered good, but one I also play IRL against friends. Its attack Abyssal Flames does 30 damage plus 20 more damage for each energy card in your discard pile. Of course you have the likes of Battle Compressor to discard energy easily, but we are running fire energies as we can get them easily into our hand with cards like Fiery Flint, which discards 2 cards from our hand, and we search our deck for up to 4 fire energy and put them into our hand. We can then discard those energy with cards like Radiant Greninja to draw 2 with the Concealed Cards ability, and Heat Factory Prism Star to discard one of them and then draw 3 cards. Speaking of drawing cards, we play the standard aggro draw engine in Expanded, the Dene GX, Squawkabilly EX, Crobat V, Tapu Lele GX, Professor's Research, and Carmine for some first turn draw. Other tech cards for this deck include Lysander Prism Star, which puts a card from your opponent's discard pile in the lost zone for each fire Pokemon you have in play, which can counter Lugia VSTAR and parts of the Regidrago VSTAR matchup as well. Parallel City can make your opponent only have 3 bench Pokemon in play, and Briar can take an extra prize card for a KO towards the end of the game if necessary, and Mew can help us find trainer cards that we need in the early game. On the off chance that you go second with this deck, you have the opportunity to use Wally to evolve into Ceruledge EX on the first turn, as well as, failing that, we can also try and item lock them with Badoo as well. Heat Fire Energy can also give Ceruledge EX that little bit of extra HP, which is also nice, and Capture Energy helps us in the early game while setting up. I love this deck playing IRL with friends and stuff, and if you want to play it yourself, why not check it out? You might be familiar with it as it is currently in the standard format right now, and it is just such a super turbo deck, and you don't really need that much brain power when playing this deck. You can almost like play on autopilot if you don't have that much energy whilst playing Pokemon TCG. I know I've been there, but yeah, this deck is absolutely insane. Let me know your thoughts on this deck in the comments below. Iron Thorns EX is one of those decks in the expanded format that simply goes out of its way to make sure your opponent is unable to play the game. Its ability, Initialization, turns off all rulebox Pokemon abilities in play except for future Pokemon, and considering we only play 4 Iron Thorns in this deck, it doesn't really matter for us, to be honest. But we play some toxic supporters like Plumeria and Team Flare Grunt to remove energy from our opponent's board, Eri to remove items from their hand, Sydney to remove Pokemon tools, stadiums and special energy cards from their hand, Guzma to potentially gust and stall our opponent, and Farbot as well to send tools and special energy to the lost zone to be never seen again. Bellelbert and Bryson Man as well also allows us to mill their deck slowly as well. Not to mention, these supporters can be looped with the likes of Lusamine and VS Seeker as well. We can also remove all special energy from our opponent's side of the board with the likes of Megaton Blower Aceback and Enhanced Hammer as well. We have we can make opponents' attacks cost more with the wondrous Labyrinth Prism Star Stadium, and we can also remove energy from their attacking Pokemon to be used to support Pokemon when we are hit into via handheld fan. The list of disruption just goes on and on and on with this deck. But Iron Thorns can be also used as an attacker with its Volt Cyclone attack, which does 140 damage, and we can move an energy from this Pokemon to another one of our Pokemon in play. This can be easily powered up with cards like Double Colorless Energy and Thunder Mountain Prism Star, which reduces the attack cost of Lightning Pokemon by 1 Lightning Energy. But the fun doesn't really stop there with this deck. We can get these cards into the hand easily with Guzma and Hala, which can search our deck for a tool, stadium and special energy card if we discard 2 cards from our hand first. And of course, Guzma and Hala can be found with Tackle as it's a tag team supporter card. But in terms of draw, we do play Speed Lightning Energy to draw a couple cards throughout our turn, and Tropical Beach, which, unless you've migrated to TCG Live with a complete playset of these in your collection, or have an extra 3,000 Great British Pounds lying around to play at IRL, you can't really play this deck as it's an exclusive promo, but fret not. We can replace these cards with Jubilee Life Village, which is slightly worse, but it just shuffles your hand into your deck, and then you draw 5 cards, and then it ends your turn. The deck can get you some really easy wins, to be honest. As you know, so many decks in this format rely on abilities to, function, and I'm sure none of us would really complain about getting a free win. Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX is another iconic deck which I am also trying to build in real life as well, and it's a great toolbox style deck which can use a variety of attacks, because Shadow Rider's Underworld Door ability allows you to attach a Psychic Energy to one of your bench Psychic Pokemon, and if you do, you draw 2 cards. So not is this only a great energy acceleration card, but also a great way to draw cards throughout the game. Its second attack, Max Geist, does 10 damage plus 30 more damage for each Psychic Energy you have in play, so there is some clear synergy here, so you can take some easy KOs. The other big attacker in this deck is Trevenant and Duskmar GX, which has the attack Night Watch, which for 3 energy you get to do 150 damage and shuffle 2 cards from your opponent's hand at random into their deck. Pair this with Unfair Stamp towards the end of the game, or whenever you get knocked out the turn previous. This combo is absolutely devastating. Not to mention, this deck has the early game strategy covered in the form of Chimecho and Wobbuffet. Chimecho has the attack Bell of Silence, which does 10 damage, and your opponent can't play any rulebox Pokemon from their hand during their next turn. And of course, this format is absolutely filled with rulebox cards that have abilities that can draw you cards and so much more. Wobbuffet also turns off all non-psychic Pokemon abilities in play when sat in the active spot, which can be really frustrating for your opponent, but this doesn't really affect us personally, as we just play psychic Pokemon in our deck, which is absolutely insane. Not to mention, this deck can hit Regidrago VSTAR for weakness so hard thanks to Lugia Fairy EX when it's in play with the Fairy Zone ability, giving Dragon Pokemon 2 times weakness to Psychic types. This deck also counters the likes of Lugia VSTAR and any other deck that runs Special Energy, thanks to the Temple of Sinnoh Stadium as well. In terms of supporters, we do play Marnie, N and Father for some disruption, Tulip for Psychic Pokemon or Energy Recovery, Acerola so we can tank and heal when we get hit into, for example, Guzma for your standard gusting, and Lily's Determination as well for some general good draw at the start of the game. Raihan as well has some really good comeback potential in this deck, and Arven can help us set up as well. Not to mention, all of these supporters can be retrieved and recycled with VS Seeker. Shadow Rider Calyrex is probably the best VMAX deck in Expanded, as it continues to survive the slow Pokemon TCG power creep, and it's a great all-round mix of a toolbox and disruptive style deck that can, deal massive damage as the game goes on. So I really recommend checking this deck out. The Bunnelby Vileplume lock deck is probably one of the most disgustingly broken decks I've ever seen in my time playing the Pokemon TCG. Bunnelby is an ancient trait card, meaning that it gains this unique effect where this Pokemon can attack twice during your turn. This means you can use Technical Machine Evolution twice in one turn without discarding it first to set up your board, and the main Pokemon we want to set up is Vileplume, which has the ability Irritating Pollen, which prevents both players from playing item cards. Item cards are a huge part of any Pokemon TCG deck, so being able to do this can be the deciding factor in how you win games. But we can get these into play turn 1 easily by searching cards like TM Evolution really easily with cards like Guzma and Hala, which also gets us a Special Energy card and a Stadium card like Artisan, Grand Tree or Silent Lab, or Jet Energy, Capture Energy or Powerful Colors Energy in this deck, which is honestly insane. We also play the Pidgeot EX line, which can help us get the cards we need into our hand throughout the game, with Pidgeot's quick search ability and Pidgeotto's airmail ability. But once we set up this combo and slow down our opponent, we can go chasing some very quick and early knockouts with Mega Lopunny EX. Its main attack we will want to use is Gale Thrust, which does 60 damage, and if this Pokemon switched into the active spot during this turn, we get to do 170 more damage. Chuck a Jet Energy on it when it's on the bench, and you can switch it immediately into the active spot to enable that extra damage super easily. Or if 230 damage isn't really enough for you to take a knockout, you can just chuck a powerful Colorless Energy and make it do 20 more damage for a huge 250 damage, which is honestly insane. And Bunnelby Vileplume is considered one of the most toxic decks in Expanded, and is the go-to if you enjoy a stall type deck that has the capability to also take those huge knockouts, which is really important in the early game. And it's also another reason why the huge card pool in Expanded enables players to come up with some really insane and broken strategies. Mega Absol EX is a relatively new archetype introduced to Expanded, and this deck is arguably the best perfect balance of the turbo aggro style deck and the disruptive style deck all mashed into one. Mega Absol's main attack we'll want to use is Claw of Darkness, which for 2 dark and 1 colorless energy does 200 damage, and we get to discard a card from our opponent's hand. We can power this up on the very first turn thanks to Tapu Koko Prism Star and Dark Patch, as we have an insane draw engine in the form of the Dene GX, Crobat V, Squawkabilly EX and Tapu Lele GX, which can get us Lily's Determination. As an alternative attacker, we do play Vikavolt V for its paralysing bolt attack, which does 50 damage and item locks our opponent, or if we are really struggling, we can pivot into Badoo to also item lock them. But the real disruption in this deck comes in the form of Garbodor, which has the ability Garbotoxin, which turns off all Pokemon abilities in play as long as it has a tool card attached to it, and the main tool we want to use with this is Floatstone, which gives Garbodor free retreat, which is honestly so broken. So as early as the first turn, we can either discard important cards from our opponent's hand, which might already be only a few cards to be honest, if we've gone second and they've drawn a few cards and they've played a few cards from their hand already, or we've item locked them, which is also just really strong in the Pokemon TCG. But by turn 2, we can have all of our opponent's abilities in play shut down via Garbodor, which is honestly so broken. We do play other supporters in the deck too, like Iono and Roxanne for some hand disruption, Karen to help us counter the Regidrago VSTAR matchup, Guzma for some gusting options to take KOs, and Wally for the potential to go turn 1 into Garbodor. And of course, these can be retrieved and recycled with VS Seeker, probably the most broken item card in Expanded right now. And Battle Compressor can help us get supporters, Dark Energy and Lightning Energy into the discard pile to fuel VS Seeker, Dark Patch and Tapu Koko Prism Star. Temple of Sinnoh is obviously going to be our go-to stadium to counter any deck that plays special energies, mainly Lugia VSTAR and Regidrago VSTAR. And even though Mega Absol is a pretty new archetype to the expanded format because it got released only like a few sets ago at the time of recording, this deck is, in my opinion, like probably the best deck in terms of disruption and a good like turbo style deck, and I really want to try this deck out when it comes to TCG Live. Last but certainly not least is the BDIF of expanded format, and I've referenced it countless times this video already. It's Regidrago VSTAR. It has the attack Apex Dragon, which allows you to copy any dragon Pokemon attack from your discard pile, which includes Pokemon like Dragapult EX's Phantom Dive, Dialga's GX's Timeless GX attack, which does 150 damage and you get to take another turn, Kyurem to snipe their their bench Pokemon, and Mega Dragonite EX to hit for a huge 330 damage, which pretty much OHKOs anything in the metagame. Noivern GX for Item Lock and Special Energy Lock, and Noivern lowercase EX to wall basic Pokemon and prevent your opponent from playing Special Energy and Stadiums from their hand. We can get these Pokemon into the discard pile with Battle Compressor easily, let alone its V-Star power, Legacy Star, which discards the top 7 cards of our deck, and we get to put 2 cards from our entire discard pile into our hand. So this can help us reuse cards we may have already played early in the game, or guarantee that extra gust or disruption to help us seal up the game. Muscle Band helps us to do that extra bit of damage by doing 20 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, and we also play Double Dragon Energy, which provides 2 energy of any type at any time when attached to a dragon Pokemon. In terms of supporters, we do play cards like Marnie, N, Iono and Team Yell Grunt for hand and energy disruption, which is honestly crazy, and Research and Carmine for some draw, Raihan for some after KO comeback potential, and Crispin in case we can't, get that energy attachment of Double Dragon Energy if we're under Special Energy Lock as well. And of course I can't forget Guzma for some gusting options to take some KOs. There is an element of board disruption to play as well. We also play Path to the Peak, which turns off all Roblox Pokemon abilities on a stadium. Yes, that turns off our own abilities, but hopefully by the time we play this down, it shouldn't really affect us. And Parallel City allows us to, prevent our Pokemon, or prevent our opponent from, benching more than 3 Pokemon, which is really insane. Our ace backer choice is going to be Megaton Blower as well, which basically counters Lugia VSTAR, and any deck that's playing Special Energy could actually come in clutch in the mirror matchup as well. And Regidrago VSTAR is without a doubt the best deck in expanded format because it is incredibly versatile and can use multiple different dragon Pokemon attacks. So if you want to switch any of the dragon Pokemon from your own Regidrago lists, or you have any other preferences, or you want to make some more attackers more budget friendly if you're playing this IRL, please feel free to do so. But this deck is honestly insane. I don't really recommend playing it if you really want to take expanded seriously when TCG Live eventually makes that update to expanded. Whilst these top 10 lists are based on my opinion, you can find different variants of these decks and different archetypes entirely on Stefan Ivanov's Dowsing Machine website, linked in the description, which is a website dedicated to the expanded format. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on these decks in the comments below, and what decks are your favourite to play in expanded. That wraps up my top 10 best decks in the expanded format, and news just in, TPCI has just hinted at a huge new update for TCG Live coming the 15th of December 2026, but hasn't revealed what it's about yet. Do you think it could be the expanded update we've all been waiting for? But if you want to see more expanded format content in your YouTube feed, make sure to subscribe with that notification bell on so you don't miss it. And whilst we are waiting for the full expanded format to come to the game, why not take a deep dive into the nerfed Sun and Moon On version of the expanded format by checking out this video on your screen, as I dedicate this channel to the expanded format entirely, and my whole channel is an entire library of decks for you guys. But until next time, and as always, stay strategic everyone. See ya.